Great, thank you. So thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Gregory Smith, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Admissions here at Woodward. And more importantly, I would work with you all if you decide to go through the admission process with you. I work with all the primary school families who are applying and help you through that process and answer questions that you might have. So in a couple of minutes, I'm going to share with you kind of a virtual look at our primary school, as well as some information that hopefully will answer some of the questions you might have about Woodward. I also have my colleague, Eric Mitchell, and I'll let him introduce himself. He's the primary school principal, and we'll sort of tag team and help try to get you all the info that you want. Then certainly we want to hear from you, whether that's with your voice or in the chat section, so we can help make sure to answer any questions you might have about Woodward. I don't know, since there's only, not a huge group, I would love it after Mr. Mitchell introduces himself, if you all would be kind enough just to quickly let us know who your child is, and if you're exploring schools, or you're looking at pre-K, or you're looking at kindergarten, that would help us just to get a sense for who you are and what information might be most pertinent to you. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Mitchell so he can introduce himself.
Thank you, Gregory. As he indicated, I am Eric Mitchell, the principal of the primary school. I'd just like to welcome you to this session. Ideally, it would have been great to see everybody in person, but I guess this is the next best thing during these times. I am a little bit about me. I'm in my sixth year as principal here at Woodward Academy. I have been here now. This is my 13th year. I'm also a parent. I have a current sophomore here at Woodward who started in kindergarten. It's kind of hard to believe. So just a little tidbit. But again, I look forward to hopefully seeing you here on campus at some point in time, so you can really get a feel of what our building is like.
Great, thank you. So if the parents don't mind, if you could real briefly just let us know who you are, who your child is, and if you're exploring schools this year, whether you're looking at pre-K or kindergarten, that'll help us get you the best information possible. That'd be great if you would indulge us. So Larissa, you're first up on my screen. Can you introduce yourself?
Perfect. I didn't want to just start talking.
I realized after I said that I gave absolutely no structure to that.
Hi, Gregory and Eric. My name is Larissa Dubose. My husband is Andre. We have a daughter named Emery, and she is 4. She'll be 5 in November. So we would be looking to potentially enroll her in the kindergarten program. But thank you for your time. Excited to be here and learn more about your wonderful academy.
Great, thank you.
I thought it's really, there's always, I know there's in every group, there's like somebody who's like, please pick me, let me go first. And then there's others that are like, oh, please, Lord, no, don't call on me.
Darren, would you be kind enough to share with us, please?
Darren Rivas, my wife and I are actually both Woodward alums, class of 2002, and my wife is 2005. And we have a daughter, Eleanor, who's turning 4 in December, so potentially looking at pre-K for next year, but just wanted to get in early, definitely on the process for kindergarten as well.
Great.
Awesome.
So I'll let you know, Darren, so I've been here for 17 years. And so the reason I ended up at Woodward is I met Rusty Slider in graduate school. And I'm going to pull what Rusty used to pull when talking with alums and say, let me grab my file on you. He would always pretend he had like a file with old detentions and so forth for alums. So I don't really have the file, but I'll just play that card. So
sounds good.
All right. Robert, you're up next.
Hey guys, my name's Robert Groth. I'm Stephanie and I are parents of Isabella, who's in pre-primary 4 at the Buckhead campus. She's just turning 3 in November, so we're a little bit on the early side, but we're relatively new to Atlanta. We've been here for about 5 years now, so we're just trying to gather some more information, probably planning to transition Isabella to kindergarten when it's time.
Great, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Justin?
Hey, Justin Patterson, wife Emily. Our daughter Catherine is at the Northside campus, just turned 4 in July. So just trying to figure out what we're going to do next, whether it's kindergarten or hold back, but just want to get a little more info on the kindergarten program.
Great, thank you. All right. Rosie?
Hi, Rosie Brown. I have a son and that is 3 and a 6-year-old daughter. So she went to Suzuki. She graduated this year. She is at another Montessori school currently. And so I think this whole pandemic has just had us rethink a lot of things and try to understand, what it is. We honestly, we're not from Atlanta either. And so we didn't know much about the private schools. We both went to private schools growing up, but, don't know much about the Atlanta market. And so just want to learn more and see, if we want to send her to first grade, where that next step will be.
Okay.
So
Great. Well, once everyone's done introducing themselves and we share with you a bit more about Woodward and our primary school, I'll also incorporate, I'm a Woodward parent as well. I have 2 daughters in 5th and 3rd grade, and they both actually started in 1st grade with Mr. Mitchell in the primary school. So I can certainly speak to that joining in 1st grade and what that experience is like once we get to that point. So is it Kareem?
I'll speak on behalf of Kareem. This is Kareem and Zara Sharif. We have 2 children at Suzuki. We've got Kalia, who is turning 5 in July, so just turned 4. And then we've got a son who is turning 4 in July. So there's sort of like this Irish twin situation, terrible term, but we did the tour actually last year and just love the campus. And so again, we're sort of in a similar boat as Justin, trying to figure out if we should hold Kalia back or if we should just, decide on enrolling. And we have a couple of friends who are alumni and current parents and have just, said wonderful things about the school. So we're excited to hear more.
Great, thank you. And so since you took the tour last year, afterwards, if you have any feedback for me on how to, make the virtual experience the best it can be, I would love to have that feedback since you've had the chance to be in the primary school in person as well.
Great, well, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. But I mean, overall, I'd say the tour itself, as Eric said, there's something about, being in the classroom and sort of talking to the teachers. So I know that's difficult, but y'all are overall doing a great job so far.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Ronnie?
Hey, it's Ronnie Mabra here. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm born and raised here, so I know a lot about Woodward and its legacy. Awesome school. I actually played against Woodward. I grew up on the South Side at Fayette County High School. My son, Remy Mabra, he's at Pond City Market and Primary 2. He just turned 5 today, actually, and he'll be applying for kindergarten next year. And so sports is real big. A lot of my friends went to Woodward and a lot of the private schools around town. So Woodward is home for me because I grew up, like I said, down in Fayetteville and just know so many people. And when I played football at Georgia Tech, a lot of my teammates, I went to Woodward. So it's strong tradition, great legacy here in the Atlanta area.
Great, Ronnie, you're coming to all my Zoom calls this year, just so you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Is it Duas?
Yes, Duas.
Okay.
So Isha and I are parents of Arya. So Arya is 4, and we're thinking of pre-K for her maybe next year. We're also parents to Rahul, who is in 3rd grade at Decatur Public School. He's also an alum of the Suzuki School, and we're also thinking about possibly having him start at a private school.
Okay, well, I live in Decatur, and so I can certainly talk about the commute with you if you have questions about that offline as well. So, Morley?
Hi, Morley Desai. I've got 2 little boys. The older one, Dev, is 3, but will be 4 before the September 1st cutoff. And then a younger son, 18 months. And then just considering our options for pre-K.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here. And then I think Joanne might be our last, if I have it right. Joanne?
Hi, really great to meet you guys. We moved to Atlanta about a year ago, so we're just trying to get a feel for all the great private school options in the area. And we are at Suzuki at Ponce City Market right now, and we are probably more interested in kindergarten.
Okay, great, thank you.
Did we hear from Zara? I think.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Zara had been on the tour last year.
Yeah, and I spoke on behalf of Kareem.
These names keep bouncing all around on the screen for me.
And then I'm also going to introduce one other person, and then we'll start talking about the primary school. Alita, are you able to turn your camera on briefly? Thank you. So just in case the other parents are wondering why I'm skipping Alita, I'm not. Alita works here at Woodward with us. She has a son in 8th grade with us new this year. And today is day one of being a new admissions counselor here at Woodward, working with older families than you all in terms of students. So Alita is joining us just to get a sense of what this type of conversation is like. So I didn't want people to think I was skipping you intentionally, Alita. So thank you.
That's okay. Thank you so much for welcoming me. And
yes,
hey,
welcome,
Ronnie,
welcome, Alita.
I know Ronnie from Georgia Tech.
So, okay, great.
He's a good spokesperson.
Got it. All right, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen in a moment and walk you through some primary school information. And Mr. Mitchell and I will talk about what that day looks like for them. And certainly at any point, I want you to feel free to interject. So if we're talking about something and it's really relevant to your family and you want to interrupt with a question, please feel free to do that or put it in the chat, and we'll just pause and make sure we address that at the time you have the question. I don't want you to think this is a presentation that you can't be part of. This is meant to be a dialogue. This is our, this virtual sharing Woodward with you is new to us as well. So feel free to chime in and make it a dialogue at any point. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here, bear with me for 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through sort of the primary school, and certainly we'll talk about what their day looks like. But before getting into this content, I just want you to know that the primary school and Zara, you've been to the primary school, is a really vibrant, warm, nurturing community. It is in a non-pandemic, a really hugging place. Mr. Mitchell and all of his administrators and teachers know every kid by name. And yes, we can talk about the academics, and those are critically important, but it is an environment that is really focused on not just academics, but social, emotional development, who these little people are as they're developing as people. It is a really warm, nurturing environment, and I just can't stress that enough. I don't know if you might say a word there, Mr. Mitchell, about that before I walk you through some of the visuals here in terms of philosophy.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's a type of atmosphere that you're familiar with at Suzuki. It's probably, as an educator in the elementary levels, it's probably the single hardest part. When kids come in and you're used to giving them high fives and hugs and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like you gotta kind of abide by the rules. So that's been a difficult part. I'm looking at this photograph here, and looks kind of plain. It's like this photo was taken before we had any additions to our playground. We got a few
I've got
extra cool items on there.
I've got a picture of the new place.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Over here, yes.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, but definitely the social emotional aspect of things is something that we are very, very cognizant of, and especially in times like this. That the kids, as young as they are, they still hear stuff. They're still processing things. So that's a primary concern at this point in time. I guess that's about it right now.
So thematically, a couple things to know before telling you what their day looks like in more detail. I mentioned the social emotional development. One of the other things that's really important at Woodward, but also specifically at the primary school, is the inclusive environment. So we have all different types of students, different learning profiles. different geography coming from 100 zip codes in over 20 counties. So not everyone's coming from the same neighborhood. Different religions, ethnicities, and we intentionally engage students in age-appropriate conversations so they learn to really value what everyone brings to the community. And that's a big part of what we do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that for a lot of you, you're in a warm, nurturing, small environment at Suzuki, and Woodward is pre-K through 12th. And, our upper school does sort of look like a small college campus, but it's important for you to know that the primary school is its own self-contained, age-appropriate neighborhood. And so you can see here that it is its own building. We're going to look at pictures and video here in a moment. Has its own playground, its own carpool. So it's not a line for Woodward. It's the primary school only. So it is very much age appropriate, developmental. It's pre-K through 3rd grade, all in this building. The older kids have their own neighborhoods. So I'm going to skip Mr. Mitchell's video because sometimes he's not able to join us. And I'm going to share a brief video that kind of highlights some key themes in the primary school. And then I'll walk you through some classes and talk about specials and answer questions anyone may have.
I appreciate you skipping the video because I don't know if y'all agree with me, but I don't like seeing myself on camera.
Let's see. For some reason, it won't let me click on this. All right, bear with me. This is a new platform. I'm going to do this in another way. Bear with me for 1 second. I apologize.
Yeah. So while he's gathering it up, I think something along the lines of the social emotion, a few people mentioned it in terms of birthdays and trying to decide pre-K, kindergarten.
Talk about that too. So thank you.
Yeah. You are the parents, you do know your child better than anybody. A general rule of thumb, safest thing is to delay. But we do have kids that are extremely successful at very young birthdays. So it definitely is something though to keep in mind about your child's maturity levels. Is probably the biggest aspect there, because we can meet different academic needs no matter where they are. I know we've got some younger students that are. I think we've got some pre-K students this year that are fluently reading and comprehending, and we have some that are learning their letters, and so the content aspect is not there's nothing there that we can't handle, but just a student needing to feel included and comfortable and confident in their surroundings. The maturity aspects come in big time for that.
And so toward that end, our pre-K students are typically 4 when school starts and 5 for kindergarten. So I know that, we can have those conversations individually, but I'll go ahead and play this brief video and then walk you through some of the building.
I believe you make a heart connection with a child, and then all the difficult things that they may have to learn or try or take chances on, they'll be willing to do that with you because they know that they're with someone who loves them. The teachers, they want your student to succeed.
It's Erica Wiltshire, our assistant principal.
It takes to make that happen.
People are really nice, and it's really just a great school.
Every person is different, and that's what makes Woodward so special.
What ultimately I think we give them is a roadmap, and we give them this ability to choose their own path here.
I love that he's become this learner that just wants to explore.
Former Suzuki parent.
Learning doesn't stop when he gets home.
And I love going to school here because there's all these new adventures. Sometimes during science, you have so much fun.
These are the people that are going to run the world, and these are going to be the leaders. That's the kind of kid that comes to Woodward.
Okay, so let's see.
I believe you make a heart connection with a child, and then all the difficult things that they may have to learn or try.
All right, so let's see here. Bear with me. Trying to. All right, so I'm having a technical glitch and that's on me. I apologize. I'm going to try to fix this. I apologize. Bear with me for 1 second. There it is. Okay, so This is the front of the building. And so to give you an idea of, I know security and drop
Greg,
off.
I think you need to do a share screen again.
Okay.
At least I'm not seeing it.
Thank you, Eric. All right, so I know that security and drop off and carpool is always a big topic. So this is the front of our primary school. And you can see here, if you were to visit as a parent, everyone has to buzz in, of course, just like you would at Suzuki. And when you come into the front foyer, the way this building is set up is that this ground floor here has grades for pre-K through first grade, as well as art and science classrooms, which I'll show you some information on in a moment. And then the second floor has second and third grades, as well as music and collaboratory. So let's see. Okay. So a typical classroom, I'm going to share this with you. This happens to be a first grade classroom, but all of the classrooms would look similar to this. Classes typically have 15 to 18 students. Pre-K tends to be a little bit smaller, and 2 teachers. This year, of course, we're tied to a very specific number based on the desks that can fit in the classroom. So most of the classes are exactly 15. In a non-pandemic year, the classes would be 15 to 18 with 2 teachers. One of the things you'll note in here is a lot of flexible seating. So whether that's wobble stools or cushions, sometimes students are standing up and doing work. The idea of movement and brain breaks is a big part of what happens in the primary school.
Yeah, that's been difficult, and not being able to have those creative places for students to feel comfortable where they're working. Right now, it's individual desks, and they've got their space, and so that is a difficult part. But the kids are so great at adapting to that, and it's really gone pretty smoothly.
2 things I want to point out. All the classrooms, which would include pre-K and kindergarten, have direct access out to the playground from their classroom, which is really great. And then all of the classrooms you'll see, again, not in a pandemic, but normally all collaborative seating, and then an area where there's a class meeting and room to break up and do small group stuff.
Yeah, this particular teacher doesn't have an assigned seat for anybody, which I know all of us growing up, we probably had those assigned seats in our classrooms for us to sit. Just thought being that we're doing a lot of small group work, rotations, centers. So really the whole group aspect comes on the carpet, just a mini lesson, and then breaking out into your workstations and going where you feel comfortable, and the teachers, even in pre-K and kindergarten, will talk about what is that space that you work best in. Should you be working next to your best buddy? We have all those conversations.
And so I'm going to show you some classroom photos and a few more videos. So kids get here right around 8, a little bit before. And then we start every day with something called responsive classroom. There's a class meeting, and Mr. Mitchell, you might elaborate, but there's a discussion and an activity. It really helps build community. It allows teachers and students to get to know one another. I don't know if it's every day, but often times they're ending their day with a reflection meeting where they're reflecting upon their day. And so, again, this goes to that social emotional development. And I'll show some pictures, Mr. Mitchell, if you might expand upon responsive classroom just a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a focus on the social emotional aspects of students, putting, rather than having incentives put in front of them to, if you get your work done, we can give you little check marks and things like that. It's more just conversations with the student and just talking about expectations. It's really the language that we're using as teachers, and kind of staying away from the word don't, if at all possible. I think my wife has had to learn that the hard way, that as soon as you say don't to some people, it's like, don't do that, huh? And so your wheel starts spinning, but it's more like, I expect for us to be, supporting each other. I expect for us to be working independently, respecting our classroom, respecting ourselves and each other. So it's just, it's as Gregory said, a morning meeting. So it's really a fresh start for every student coming in. Ideally, they're not worried about, okay, my first activity is going to be this academic thing that I'm dreading. It's a building of community, building understanding of each other and how we have similarities and how we have differences, and the differences are okay, and we can learn from each other's differences. So there's a lot of conversation that goes on there, as well as some content. We do have the special area teachers will run those meetings with like morning messages, and there's a group activity where they're going around and doing different kind of greetings. We're teaching a proper greeting, eye contact. Just there's so much involved in it. Just being, it's just a lot of stuff around being what you can consider to be a polite, caring citizen that just cares about others around them.
Great, thank you. So this is a picture from a pre-K class last year. So all of their reading, writing, math, and social studies in the primary school is in that one classroom with 2 teachers. And then they go in a normal situation to their special areas classes, which I'll talk about in a moment. This year, the specials teachers are coming to their classroom. So if we were all in one homeroom together with Miss Ship here, the music teacher would come to us. The Spanish teacher would come to us rather than the students moving around the building. Yeah. So those are pictures of a pre-K class. Here are some pictures of a kindergarten class in action. Like I said, brain breaks and movement is something that we incorporate a good bit into our day. All the classes, of course, have the newest versions of Smartboards. This is a picture from this year, actually, as we have some students who are choosing to be remote. And this camera here is a 360 OWL camera. And so the Zoom call is happening through that camera and allows students who are choosing to be remote to have that immersive experience, to be able to watch and participate with what's going on in class.
Yeah, and one of the things that has been a positive, I think, of our COVID experience, yes, if we look hard enough, we can find them. Is the way we opened up school, in which we met with small groups. The kids who were going to be only remote had their own day to get to meet with the teachers virtually. Then the kids that are on campus, we split them in 2 as well. So each of the groups of 3 had a time to spend just getting to know the teachers getting to know them on a more personal level. Because really, if the students don't feel like you know them, you're not going to get their best stuff when we start getting into the academic aspects. So that's one thing I really enjoyed this year, is just having those really small groups to start out the school year.
Great. And I know you are the parents of pretty young kids, but sometimes parents want this information. So I'll give you a brief overview. And if you want more details, I'm happy to do that individually with you in terms of some of our primary curricular resources. So in terms of handwriting, we use Learning Without Tears. So Handwriting Without Tears to develop handwriting. We do still teach cursive. So in 3rd grade, students are learning cursive through Handwriting Without Tears. Then in terms of math, in the pre-K and kindergarten, it's about developing number sense. But 1st grade and up, we use something, well, now it was called Pearson and Vision 2.0. Now it's called Savas Math. But as kids get into 1st grade and they're a little further along on that reading continuum, there's a good bit of reading involved in our math curriculum, where students are required to use higher order problem solving skills, analytical skills, taking different component parts of problems and using them in various ways. So it's a great math program. It's a little bit different than the way many of you were probably taught math, but it seems to work well for our kids. And then Pearson is a primary component of our social studies component as well. And at the young ages, students are really learning about community as a starting point, and then branching out into broader and broader perspectives into state and national perspectives in social studies. And then writing, we use a sort of writer's workshop model. And Lucy Calkins, I know, is one of the things that teachers make use of there. And then I mentioned the specials. So I will get to those. So I'm going to do this a good bit, talk about what it looks like today and what it looks like in a normal circumstance. So in a non-pandemic, students have 7-day rotation with their specials. And in that 7 days, they would go to Spanish 3 times, art 3 times, science 3 times, and collaboratory, which we'll talk about once. This year, because of the way this is working, they're going to each of those once a week rather than 3 days out of 7. Collaboratory is a combination of computer skills, keyboarding skills, coding, robotics, and STEAM activities. I don't know, Mr. Mitchell, if you would add anything to that, but that's the way I would generally describe it.
Yeah, just a lot of collaborative work in there, just learning to share ideas, just starting to understand that your idea is not always the best idea. We've always had kids that during a time of reflection have come to that conclusion. So, I think with the thing with the specials too, I can't remember, you mentioned PE is twice this year. Normally it's an everyday type thing, and we have multiple classes in the gym at the same time. This year we're having to limit classes to 1 class at a time to avoid the cross contamination. So it's just the number of periods are just not there for PE, but it is something that we highly value. Recess every day. The young ones generally go out twice a day, at least. So, yeah.
Great. So this is a picture from Collaboratory, working with the B-bots and programming. Again, Collaboratory with coding. And then here, this is one of our 2 music rooms. And so students in a normal situation, there are 2 teachers in historically. One does singing and one introduces students to rhythm and instruments. So this is a really fun room. Here are some students learning to do some rhythm. And then there are 2 art classrooms in a normal circumstance. And again, 3 days out of 7, if we were in a normal health situation. Right now, once a week, the art teacher is coming to their classrooms right now to do those activities.
Yeah, music this year too it is a lot of rhythm. We are not singing this year, so a lot of percussion aspects, as well as our music teacher is teaching kids how to do some sign language movements within each song. So, with our alma mater, she's worked with that and a few other different songs where she's been teaching kids to use sign language to kind of sing. So again, just an introduction to some differences that are out there, and again, an appreciation for.
As I said, I have a 3rd grader, and she's actually really enjoyed learning the signing of the alma mater. So these are art students putting work into the kilns. There are kilns, so of course they're working with different mediums, including clay at each grade level. The project might be different based on the grade level, but each grade level does usually work with ceramics. And then dance, this is a wonderful opportunity. So they can take dance during the school day in lieu of PE occasionally. So in a normal circumstance, they would go to, if a student chooses to do dance, they can do dance 3 days a week. PE 3 days a week, dance 2 days a week. The rotation is a little different this year, but this is here in the primary school, and Miss Khadijah is a great dance teacher. And so here are some pictures in the students doing dance class. And then we also have dedicated science labs, which is great in a normal circumstance where students can go do hands-on science. So I'll give you a sense of what those labs look like. This year, again, they're still getting to do science activities, but in their regular classroom, the science teacher is moving there. But there are 2 science labs like this for students to get involved and do hands-on science activities. And here are a couple kids working on experiments in the labs. And then Spanish. All of our students take Spanish up through 6th grade. It is several days a week, depending on the rotation. Once we get to middle and upper school, and I know that's a long way down the road for you, but then students can choose between Spanish or French. And we offer 5 languages in our upper school: Spanish, French, German, Mandarin and Japanese. And if you have a child that develops a passion for world languages, they can take more than one. Mr. Mitchell's daughter is one of those. I think German and Japanese currently, right?
Correct.
Yep. And a lot of travel opportunities, as well as independent language test certification that students can take, which is a nice resource. Couple more things I'll show you, and then I want to be able to answer questions you may have. Mr. Mitchell talked about PE. So this is our wonderful gymacathiatorium, as we refer to it. So lunch would be in here. Right now, lunch is happening in the classrooms, but lunch would be in here normally. And then PE in here. They do different units, building coordination, different units on different activities throughout the year. And then
they're doing dance right now.
And dance, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so pictures from PE class. We are no longer changing out at the primary school into a PE uniform. We used to. So now kids just go to PE at the primary school in their regular Woodward uniform. And then I wanted to briefly show you this as well. I know that there are a lot of families, whether it's just preference or cultural reasons or medical reasons, that someone might be vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free. I just wanted to point out real quickly here that from a parental perspective, you can go to our website and you can filter options every day, which is nice. So you could click on any of these and it would automatically show you what the good choices are for your child that day. And it helps when you can have those conversations up front and know what's on the menu. Again, this year it's a little bit different, but in a normal circumstance, that's a very helpful tool to have.
Yeah, this year we've actually substituted. If you saw on the menu right there, there was a little option there for wild butter and jelly sandwiches. So it's just a peanut substitute that we've tried this year, and I guess the kids are just gobbling it up. You have some substitutes that don't really taste like peanut butter, but this apparently, and I've had one. It does. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So then two last things, playground. That's obviously important. We want kids to be kids. As Mr. Mitchell said, everyone has recess every day. The younger ones in pre-K especially, probably twice a day. So I'm going to do a bit of a 360 here. Just know that we have, since this 360 was done, actually quite a while ago, we have added a new playscape. And I do have a picture of that, Mr. Mitchell. So let me just give you a sense here. So down here at this end is typically where older kids play, meaning second and third graders. There's a turf soccer field here, and the turf's been expanded now so they can get out more frequently when it's a day like today where it may not be actively raining, but might be wet outside. And then at this end, this is where younger kids typically are playing, as well as the field. There also is a chicken coop over here, which the kids love. So they get to watch eggs hatch and learn about the incubator and see the chickens grow. There's also some gardening beds over here. And then let's see here, some pictures of kids on the playground here. So this is the new playscape. So there is a trike track as well as this playscape where they can build different structures and climb on. And so I think this has been a big hit, right, Mr. Mitchell?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So we will get there in a moment.
I was watching a class today, and if they weren't riding a tricycle around the track, they were running around the track, and they were, they turned those orange, let's see if we can see them. There's an orange concave. Yeah.
Right
so
there.
They had turned those over and were kind of using those as like a rocker type stuff. So it's just it's something to add to the creative play. There's also a stage that we're adding down in one of the corners with like little amphitheater type seating that we can have classes go down there, and if they want to do like a reader's theater or something like that they can do that. We've added a bunch of like musical instruments, percussion instruments around the playground that have been a big hit
there
thus far. Mm-hmm.
All right, and then I know for parents, one of the things that's always important to understand is carpool, and so I'm going to use this overhead view to show you. Right here is the carpool loop, and I'm not saying you'll never wait in carpool, That would be a bit disingenuous, but having it divided out by grade rather than all of Woodward Academy makes a big difference. They do a great job running Carpool. So parents, this is Walker Avenue, which, you know, if they attend, you'll need to know, and you come across here and loop through this loop. There are, I'll show you pictures in a minute, but teachers out here at different stations, and they're opening the door in the morning and getting your kid out and welcoming them. And then this is where they get picked up after school as well. So let me show you a bit more about that. As I said, it's a hugging place in a non-pandemic. There's Mr. Mitchell greeting someone at Carpool in the morning. One of our teachers greeting a student. So kind of get the sense of how that works. And then I know for many families, one of the questions they have is about student transportation. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. Let's see here. I'm going to share just a few last things and then open it up for questions. So on our website, I wanted to make sure you knew where this was. We are happy to meet with you individually and talk with you as a family and get to know more specifics about your kids and walk through more of this information. Maybe you have a partner or a spouse who isn't able to make it today. We will have times where you can sign up as an individual family and have this type of tour experience so we can tailor it to your questions and needs. You can do that here. This is also where you'll apply on getting started. But I also wanted to show you some information about, let's see here, about our student transportation options, because I know some of you, if your kids come, would utilize our student transportation group. So right here, you can explore all of the different options here with the different bus routes, see where those stops are located. It's important for you to know, though, that all of our bus drivers are Woodward employees. We don't contract that out. They've all been on routes, a lot of the same routes for years. They get to know the kids and families. And there are a lot of great safety features. So when your kids get on and off the bus, they swipe their student ID. And you can have your phone set up with an app so you get a notification knowing they got on the bus or off the bus. You can track the bus GPS-wise. And I don't know how many of you rode a bus growing up. I did in Ohio growing up, and I remember climbing the seats and lowering the windows. And I had fun, but I'm not sure it was that safe. These buses have 3-point harness seat belts, Wi-Fi, charging ports, reading lights. So they're really comfortable and work really well for families. So that's sort of a virtual visual overview of the primary school. But I wanted to open it up to see what questions that the parents might have that we can help elaborate on or talk further about.
None?
No questions?
What's the timeline for kind of, you guys are looking for admissions and applications, and how big is your pre-K class?
Good question. So our application will be available beginning October 1st, and you'll have until the end of February to complete that process. We are fortunate that we have, despite the fact that we're not having prospective families on campus, we do have a facility that is not connected to daily classes for students. So we are going to be able to do in-person admissions assessments, obviously socially distanced with masks. And so you have, you can apply as early as October 1, and you want to complete it by February. There in the winter, January through March, there are assessment dates you can sign up for. They're age-appropriate developmental assessments, nothing they need to prepare for. And then obviously we would get their teacher at Suzuki to fill out a teacher evaluation form, as well as copies of any sort of progress reports that they might provide you, and a copy of the birth certificate. So those, we don't do interviews, of course, at that age. So it's a streamlined process. Darren, did that help clarify?
It does, yes, thank you. And when will you let people know?
So the first Saturday in April. And off the top of my head, I don't have that date in front of me, but it's the first Saturday in April.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And I will say that Woodward belongs to AAAIS, which if you're looking at schools, you might be familiar with. So it's Atlanta Area Association of Independent Schools. And there are a few schools for pre-K specifically that do some early notifications. We don't as a general rule, but if you are applying to schools that are going to give you an early notification, if you let us know that, we can take a look and see if we're able to do that on our end as well. That way you don't miss out on the opportunity to have all of the options on the table. And Mr. Mitchell, were you saying April 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, April 3rd. Thank you.
This is
Other. Yes, go ahead, Zara.
Any advice for those who are sort of Eric, you had mentioned the summer babies, keeping them behind is a good strategy. I think Justin sort of mentioned it, we're sort of in that similar situation where, Kalia will turn 5 in July. Her brother is right after her. I'd love to have them both in the same school. Just any advice on those who are sort of in that transition period and have those some kind of summer birthday.
Yeah, I think, Gregor, I think you'd agree. If you are kind of wavering between the two, it would probably be a good idea to do the testing at kindergarten, because that might be a good indicator there. Partly, yeah.
Can I interject real quickly?
Yeah.
There, part of the reason for that, and I agree with Eric, is when we do an assessment for a kindergarten applicant, one of the components that we do is a kindergarten readiness test. And it is just a look at where they are at that point in time with some of the readiness skills. And so sometimes, to Eric's point, we go through and we get all the information. We may say, hey, we really would like for this student to join us. Based on all this information, we think that pre-K might be the best spot for them, or kindergarten. And so to Eric's point, that's a good route to go. The other thing I would throw in is, it's important to keep in mind, not just next year, right? So we will have kids in pre-K who are already, almost 5, and we'll have kids in kindergarten who are almost 6 when school starts. And so it can be a challenge sometimes, not just in pre-K or kindergarten, but when students begin driving, when they go off to college, when kids start dating. If you're 12, 14, 16 months younger than peers, not for every child, but for some, that can be a challenge. So it's important to kind of keep that broader continuum in your thought process as well.
Yeah, and I would also advise, conversations with current teachers. Just really value their feedback in terms of the maturity aspects, and how they how they're doing in the classroom setting with the other students, because it's I think that's a pretty good indicator as to what they think.
And I would encourage all of you, I hope that, once we have the links up on our website, that we can have more in-depth conversations with you individually about this topic as well. Keeping in mind that conversation, given how quickly kids change at this age, might look different today than it does in February, right? And knowing that they're continuing to develop.
Yep.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
Hey, Gregory. Speaking on the transportation, for kindergarten age, what do most kind of parents send their kids on, or I guess what is their approach to the transportation?
Yeah. So
coming from in town to working parents, hard to get, early pickups or whatnot. So just kind of curious on that.
Sure. So like I said, I'm going to do this frequently. I'll tell you what it's like in a normal situation, and then this year, and then Eric, feel free to chime in. But in a normal situation, about 1/3 of our primary school students come on the bus, but there is a proportionality of that third that weighs heavier to older kids. So do we have kids in pre-K and kindergarten ride the bus? We do, just fewer than 1st through 3rd. Students also can come as early as 7 in a normal health situation and play in the gym. This year, we're not doing that as much. And we do have after school care available. And so that's available until 6. And so the answer to your question, especially, there are a number of people, depending on where you are in town, the bus may be an option. We do have kids that ride the bus, as I said. And then there are 2 buses after school, one at 3:45 and one at 6:10. Now that 6:10 bus right now is primarily for older kids that are staying for play rehearsal or swim practice. But a kid could do that. We also have something called Carpool to School. So once you're a Woodward parent, it's password protected, of course, but you can go in and create carpools based on where you live and by primary school, or join carpools. It's kind of like a message board for carpooling. So that's an option as well. Justin, where specifically are you in town?
We're in Buckhead.
Okay, so there are quite a few bus stops available to you. In fact, Trinity Presbyterian Church has so many kids that get on the bus there. We have 3 full-size buses from that stop that come to Woodward every morning.
Okay,
yeah, with the younger students in normal years, the pre-K and kindergarten, we will place them right behind the bus driver. You know, because there will be you know, some buses that are multi-age. I think that route there in particular has one is pretty much set aside for primary lower.
Right.
But you know, in the event that there are older students on there, we do kind of seat it, the primary at the very front, then lower, then middle, then upper.
Yeah. It's like boarding zones at Delta.
Right.
So the youngest are directly behind the driver. I mean, we have great kids in our upper school, but certainly, you know, a kindergarten student doesn't need to hear the conversation of a junior, right? So
Well, I just call it, they get first class.
right. There you
When
go.
they're on the Delta. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions that people might have? No? Okay. Well, we greatly appreciate you taking the time to learn more about Woodward. Like I said, later this week on the 1st, I think our tour link will be available, so we could do this individually. Like I said, if you have a partner or a spouse that couldn't make it today, and we'd love to do that individually with you. I can't promise Mr. Mitchell will be there for all of those, but I have a video of him saying hello for you. And then I also appreciate your patience. Doing these virtually is new to us as well. And so I apologize for my clunkiness of clicking around at the beginning and being a little bit lost, but I'll improve as time goes on. But
Grace is the theme of our year.
Yes.
Giving grace.
So, thank you so much for coming to learn more about Woodward. And I really hope we get the chance to interact with you individually and learn more about your child too.
Thank you,
And
Gregory and
Lindahl,
Eric,
thank
for
you.
the presentation. This was very, very thorough. And we appreciate it 100%. If possible, if we have any parents who may have any additional questions, is it okay to share your information?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
You have
Great.
all my contact information, right, Pia?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Well-
I'm just, it's first name dot last name at woodward.edu.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I also just want to say, you guys are in great hands with Suzuki. We have wonderful kids and families that have joined our community that were at Suzuki before. So we know that's a transition that works well for a lot of families, and we hope we can work with you to make that happen.
Thank you all very much for joining us.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
As well. Y'all take care. Be safe.